What's up, everybody? I'm Indy. Bam! See the names right here, and there's Jay over there, way over there.
All up in the camera again. Sorry, I'll have to sit back a little bit.
All up in the camera. Yeah, we're here hanging out, indie game business, and we're talking with the Trese brothers.
Trese brothers.
Trese. Tracy.
Trese. The opportunity to get it right.
The Trese brother.
There you go.
Yeah. So we were, as you came live, we were just talking about the guy from IGN who got busted last week with the review that he wrote that completely ripped off a YouTuber. And now they've discovered that everything that he has done was a ripoff of somebody else.
Thank you so much for the follow, you guys. Oh, hosted. Thank you for the host. And so everything he ever done is a ripoff, huh?
Well, apparently a whole lot of it.
Well, I think the challenge IGN faces, he was a prolificer, and they've said, we think some of it's plagiarized. We've heard from authors that there's a concern. And there's just so much, like, how do you verify that, like, high school paper style plagiarism where you rewrite, every third word? You can't Google it very well. So I think my understanding is out of abundance of caution that they just said getting rid of all of it.
Well, that, you know what, the one thing about this industry is you do something like that, I mean, he's gonna be blackballed. No one else will ever hire him, ever. I mean, maybe 10 years down the road if he apologizes big time, and then there's programs that can check that kind of thing.
I used to be of, and I would say I'm still 90% in the line of thought of this industry, despite how big it is, it's still very small, and it doesn't take very much for people to find out about you. Over the years, I've had experience working with and interacting with people who have done this like multiple times, and they keep getting rehired. So the review and marketing and the editorial side of this industry is vast. At some point, he'll either, do well enough on his own if he wants to stick with it, or if he even has the chops to stick with it, or somebody else will probably pick him up. I mean, it's ridiculous. And that's what I was just talking about with Andrew and Corey. It's not only bad on him as a reviewer or a journalist, I don't use that in very loose terms, but it speaks to IGN too, when you've got somebody who has a huge track record of this, and no red flags popped up in the course of them hiring the guy. So anyway, that's that was the initial stuff that we were talking about. So yeah, we've got Andrew and Corey, the Trese brothers. They have been doing this since y'all launched your first game in what, 2011?
Late 2010.
Late 2010. And going strong ever since then. And so we're going to get into some stuff about, how you create such deep games, because their games are ridiculously deep, far deeper than I thought when I naively opened up Star Traders Frontiers for the first time. But how they do that with such a small, a team, and they do it year in and year out, and all of that stuff that other folks can hopefully, apply to what they're doing at their studio. Real quick, we'll hit some big news. So Jagex launches a publishing arm. We see these about once a week almost at this point. There's a lot of companies that are getting into publishing from various angles. One of the takeaways from this particular article, if Indy, are you putting it up in there, or do you want to?
Yeah, I would know. I'll put it in there.
Okay. They say they've already seen 100 games, and so it speaks to how competitive it is out there if you're a small developer trying to find a publisher, and how you really got to make sure that you've got your sales kit put together and on point, and everything that they need initially in there, because you're going up against a whole lot of competition. Some publishers are going to see more games than others, but keep that in mind. Even with a new publisher, although I think they did publishing years ago too, they're seeing a absolute flood of content coming in that they get to pick from, as they're going forward. So yeah. What else have we got? Cuphead has sold over 3 million units. That's impressive.
Heck of a run. Heck of a run, man.
But how long they were working on that game for years, though, weren't they? I forget how long the development cycle was. Let's see if I can Google that real quick. How long was Cuphead in development? 5 years.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
a lot of years to do those little. That's
Okay.
a lot of graphics. Wow.
And that's it. I mean, it was had to be absolutely the majority of it art and animation and all of that stuff. But yeah, 5 years. And it paid off. I mean, they sold 1 million copies within like 2 weeks of launch, and now they're up to 3 million. So
I think you're like 2 of those years were just making it harder. You're like, you take it back to the designer, and he's like, "No, it is not hard enough. I still don't cry while playing it. Try again."
they're testing it on the broken controller index. It's like, you only broke one controller playing this. It's obviously not hard enough yet. Let's go back and make it harder.
So we do with Star Traders. The first game, we measured our success in how many phones were thrown across the room.
That's funny.
Do you have a high score on that?
I've thrown at least 3, but not about Star Traders.
And then finally, Phoenix Point. Shout out to an old client of mine, Julian Gallup, because we worked with him way back when on Laser Squad Nemesis. They have, and we talked about them a month or so ago and how they're working with Fig, but they've also got a very targeted Facebook ad campaign going, pointing to crowdfunding. They've raised over $2 million now.
Wow, that's crazy.
Really impressive.
That's
And their
quick.
first Kickstarter or crowdfunding raised like 30, right?
30.
I think that's what they said. They raised $30,000 the first time they did it for a different game, and now they're back again over 2 million.
Yep.
It's amazing growth.
So that's very impressive. Is the game? I don't even know if the game's out yet. I don't think it is. It's definitely one I like.
What is the game there? I mean, it's for a particular game.
Yeah, it's called Phoenix Point. I mean, if you don't
Like
know,
XCOM-ish.
yeah, Julian and his brother are the ones that created the original XCOM. So when they can say something's a spiritual successor, they literally mean it.
Xenonauts was the only spiritual successor ever.
Yeah, I know, but you're not biased on that at all.
I'm not biased on that at all. No.
So it looks like it's in early access. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, congrats on that. That's awesome.
That's huge.
Yeah,
That's going to pay for your ramen for the next couple years, anyways, right?
They do. He does big games, very detailed, kind of like the guys we've got here. So, Andrew and Corey, give us the short version. Give us the high level on the studio and where y'all came from. I know you've been making games together since y'all were kids. And how do you keep from throttling each other by the throat, working together as brothers for that long?
Well, as you said, we've been doing this for a really long time. I think Corey and I both have different memories of the first game we ever made together. I remember one, he remembers another one, but it's too long.
I'm older, so my memory is better. But
or worse,
usually how
right?
all the arguments end up. Age starts getting thrown around. But we picked up. We both got Android phones in 2010, and just hadn't worked together on any projects in a while, and we're looking for something to do that would bring us back together daily on something we both enjoyed. So we started Star Traders, and that was really the beginning of it. Was the very first game was a Star Traders game. We've made 5 in the universe now, and we've taken kind of, in my opinion, a really fun approach of letting players who are following us and trying all the games in the catalog play in this universe at different time periods and from different perspectives. So you're the Starship Captain in Star Traders games, you're a the ruler of the colonies in the 4X Empires games and in the Templar games. You're leading a elite group of mechs, so you're a pilot in a mech. You're down like on the ground level, sword and bullets, fighting Xeno to the death to protect the colonies. So it's been a big evolution, and we've now got I think 5 games across the galaxy and
the galaxy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So does Templars take place within a certain group in the universe, or is it, are they a certain faction that it's attached to?
Yeah, within Star Traders, there's a very old group that has some I wouldn't call them mystical, but they're semi-mystical properties that Zen do, and they have this ability to pass down all of the memories of their life and their descendants' life to their children. So they're a very special breed. You'll meet them in Star Traders Frontiers right away. You'll meet an Arbiter. She is one of the sects of the Zendu. You can meet the Augurs, which are more tied to princes in the great game of politics, and they hover around the big courts. And then there are the Templar Militant, who have been for the last 5 or 6 centuries the military protectors of the Star Traders as they go on this great exodus and found these new colonies. So you get a different perspective. If you're playing Star Traders, you don't see that much of the Templars, because they're, in a lot of ways, their time has sort of passed a bit in the universe, and they're not the kind of people that you would mess with, and they're very focused on their thing. You'll see more of them in future releases of the story, but if you really want to get into that angle of it, you would play Templar Battle Force.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with that Arbiter at this point. I think I've started her mission about six different times. So you launched the first one in late 2010. Since then you've done Templar Battle Force, Star Traders RPG, Star Traders the 4X Empires, Heroes of Steel, Cyberknights RPG, Templar Assault RPG, Age of Pirates, and now Star Traders Frontier. That's a busy schedule. So, before we even get into how you managed to pull that off, how has the industry changed for you in the last 7 or 8 years? What are the changes that you've seen that, affect you as an indie team going out there and creating games or marketing or selling them?
Well, I think one thing I would say has changed is there's more developers trying to make games. I think there's been a democratization of some of the tooling. If you look at the price of Unreal Engine over the last 10 years, or even Unity, the price of tools has gone down dramatically. The cost of entry has gone down dramatically. I would say specifically Google Play and iTunes have gotten worse for indie developers. There's a lot less money to be made in mobile now, and Steam has gotten a lot easier. They've eliminated Greenlight. You can now just pay that fee. You can do Steam Direct. So I think there's been some definite evolutions, and I think the gap between the winners and the losers in terms of sales numbers, and not everyone measures winning and losing on sales numbers, but commercial success, the gap between the successful indies and the average indie, the people like us that are just kind of selling the average number of units, has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And you see successful indies now selling 1 million copies, hitting huge numbers. But if you look at the Steam data, the average sales per game just continues to trend downward.
So you said Steam's gotten better. I think it's gotten worse. How do you compete against all of the other, games that are getting launched on Steam constantly? We've watched the release rate just go up like a hockey puck in the last 3 years. From a discoverability standpoint, what do you all do to improve your standing, improve your chances and get out in front of people on Steam, since it's so crowded now?
And what I was trying to say is just that I think Steam is easier to get on now.
Oh, yeah,
not
well, I
easier
agree
to
with that.
succeed at.
Yes.
Like, more
Yeah.
people can show up and put a game on Steam. Greenlight wasn't necessarily a big hurdle, but it was a gate that people really had to work to get through. Now I think it's like $100 or something, and
Yeah, $100. Anybody can put a game on, pretty much.
So you
Jeez.
definitely, in all the markets, I would say that one of the biggest changes we've seen is just the piles of games, right? They're piling up. When we joined Google Play in 2010, we actually felt like we were kind of on the ahead of something. Like, we were pretty early. We actually, Star Traders ranked in the top 10 RPGs, paid RPGs for a little while. There weren't that many games out there. But that obviously has changed, especially for Steam and Greenlight coming down. It's crazy. You have to find your place to do something different. I would say one of the things that we have in a very focused way done differently is to be really committed to our group of customers and to our fans, and to work on making people who love not only the game, but get what we're doing and love how we do it, and that they come back and they tell their friends and they leave a review. So, we have policies about, I don't know, early access. We did 8 months. We did 88 updates. None of those, there are a lot of hot fixes in there. We don't count like crappy little things. There are 88 real updates with content, features, art, blah, blah, blah. So that kind of, for us, that's a big differentiator. One of the ways that we try to say, hey, we're very different, stick with us, tell a friend, you've never seen anybody do something like this before, that kind of thing. You have to find a way to differentiate yourself, because as you said, I don't know, you can say, if you release a game on Steam now, you might stay on the, I don't even know if they have it anymore, but there's the new released like top 20 or something, and you'll be there for 5 minutes max.
it was literally
Yeah.
like 10
You're
minutes
gone.
when we released
Yeah.
Star Traders. I think we were on that top 20 for maybe 10 minutes.
Wow.
Before other games pushed us down into the 50s, and then by mid-afternoon that day, we were gone. We weren't even on the list of new releases anymore.
That's
And
crazy.
part of that is that games will release so many DLCs now when they come out. Like, a game will come out and they release 25 DLCs, their soundtrack, a bunch of hats, whatever expansions. Those all show up as new releases. So that used to be a way, like when we launched Heroes.
Yeah, we stayed on there for 2 days or something.
Yeah, it
Jeez.
was 2 days. It was a huge launch bump. We got all these new players. They weren't particularly happy with the game at that point, but the people that stuck around, we were able to engage and make improvements to help them. But now you don't get any bump from being a new game. You're just one of the new games this week. One of 895 new games this week.
So that's where, and real quick, for those of you who aren't watching chat or that it flew by, we've got 2 copies of the game to give away. So
Yeah.
type !raffle and you'll get in it. We'll give one away at like the halfway point and one away at the end of the show. So, with the fact that your time allotted there on the new hot and new or whatever it's called is so limited. I mean, is that where you put in is there a bigger drive on your side for the wish listing? Because we've talked about that, where when you wish list something and it goes on sale or it launches, you're getting basically an email marketing shot directly to the developers. How have you worked around or adapted around the fact that you don't get the front page publicity anymore?
Wish listing is definitely as important as conversions for us. It's a little harder to measure, like if you're running a Facebook ad, what percentage of your clicks are going into purchases versus wish lists. But wish lists are super important. I think that's why you see so many developers putting up the game well before it launches. Like, they put the game on six months before it launches. In old Steam, you didn't do that, because that meant you were through the new cycle by the time you put your game out. Now people recognize that new item on Steam is mostly irrelevant. So you put your game up really early, you publish dev blog posts on there as updates, and you promote it to get wish lists, because when the game actually becomes available, like you said, you're going to get that email. Then the first sale, it's going to get an email. Then when you launch out of early access, you're going to get an email. using that wish list as a mailing list is critical today in terms of maximizing your chance of success on Steam. Wouldn't you agree, Andrew?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's the well, it's interesting because we had another thing that we did differently was we went into early access. People are putting their game up 6 months in advance to build wish list. You can put your game into early access to build your wish list. It's a way to build up that momentum in advance of launching, and you need that because you're not good. Steam doesn't give you a free momentum kick. You get one. Don't get me wrong. There's definitely a benefit. The new release thing is not the only thing you get, but you've got to prime the pump, as they would say.
Now, when do you all run Facebook ads? And if so, when do you start doing that? Is that like immediately on the storefront going up, or when do you start doing that aspect of it?
Well, Facebook ads are expensive. Running $100 Facebook ad will get you like nothing. So we have been very conservative with our Facebook advertising. We look at Facebook and Twitter and Reddit. I think Reddit being your best bet, Facebook being somewhere in the middle, Twitter being terrible in terms of ROI conversion.
Huh.
That's our feeling, and I'm sure there's marketing people that would say that's wrong because they know more about it. But as amateur ad makers, that's where we've seen the best results. We have run Facebook ads on launch, on exit of early access, and then on sales. We have, I think, only 1,500 likes or followers or whatever on our Facebook page. And the way Facebook is working these days, you have to pay to get all of them to even see your post. So we occasionally do boosted to your page, people that like this page, show them this thing to let them know about launches. And then we do targeted demographics, people that like games that are similar. Like when we launched Battle Force, we did some people that like XCOM ads. Because it appeals to XCOM players, and we did the same thing with Star Traders for FTL. So I think you've got to be thinking about what's my audience, how can I use my page audience to get initial, because if they liked your page, it's very likely they're going to like your next game. And then trying to find demographics on Steam that are likely to interface with your content.
Well, what about the Reddit stuff? I mean, did you do ads on Reddit, or was it just straight posting, or?
Well, Reddit is very tough to get content, topical content by the owner. I'm sure you guys have.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's the gatekeeping of the gatekeeping. It can be a real challenge, even if you, like Andrew, have thousands of karma and post all the time. It can be very hard to, as a developer, have relevant content for PC gaming. Our PC gaming, when it isn't about you. And they don't want you to post about you, so that means you got to post about other games, or you've got to post about, I don't know, stuff in the PC gaming industry, which is a real drag on your time. Contributing to Reddit takes hours every week to get your rep up to the point where they'll even let you post about yourself. So I think that's one of the way they funnel people into paying for ads. I would be interested about what the ad block percentage in Reddit users are, because the difference between their traffic and your ad impressions is gigantic. And I think that is partially due to ad blocking.
I would imagine that Reddit users in particular are heavy users of ad blocker.
I believe that is the fact as well, just based on the demographic and probably by subreddit, right? If you're in /puppypics, probably less ad block percentage. But if you're in PC gaming, you bet there's a lot of people in there that know how to use an ad blocker.
So did you use Reddit ads?
Yep.
And that was the most successful?
We're getting ready to run another set of them. But yeah, I think that's been our most successful in terms of impressions to clicks to conversions and like source data on Steam.
So do you do that like in the PC gaming subreddit or like the Twitch subreddit or
PC gaming, games, those kind of ones. I don't know. Have we done other ones, Andrew?
Yeah, we've
tried
done
/Steam.
We've done Steam. We've done Dwarf Fortress. We've done /RPGs. I mean, Reddit does provide you that kind of self-selected topical grouping that's helpful. Not, Facebook makes you go through this audience selection process, and you've got to trust that they're doing a good job with that. So we've tried a lot of them. We've run them for Kickstarters. We've run them for game launches, sales, all sorts of things. And throughout, we have found that Reddit has yielded the most clicks. For
the other thing that you can do with Reddit as a developer that's free, if you're not posting new posts, but anybody talks about you on Reddit, we jump in on those. Like if somebody says, "Hey, I saw this rock paper shotgun article about Star Traders. They say it's good. Is this game crap?" I'll post, "Hey, I'm the developer. Ask me anything." Like I just every day I get up and I search Reddit, for me or for our games. Like if anybody's talking about us, we jump in right away and say, "Hey, we're here to answer any questions." That generates a lot of engagement because people will say like, "Your game's garbage," and I'll say, "Oh, we're really sorry. Like, what about it was garbage? We'll try to improve it." And you show like you're an actual, person. You're not faceless, customer manager at some big studio.
Yeah.
some evil developer?
Yeah, just out to
I'm out to get your money.
So, I mean, and part of what, you've talked about and what is so instrumental in you guys going on and on and on is your community. And it's impressive to me that you've got such a fan base across multiple games, not necessarily because you've got multiple games, but because they're not all dead on. You're not just doing 4X games, or you're not just doing, RPGs. There is some, symbiotic between the games that you do, but they can attract very different audiences. So how do you manage that? What do you do? Walk us through a day. I mean, how can you handle all that community management and at the same time actually develop the game?
It's long days, yeah.
Long days.
Long days.
I always like when the answer starts with a sigh. That's always a good.
Oh, let me tell you about my day. Well, we partially, we have always focused on improving our games with our community. So a lot of our community interaction is based around the work that we're doing for the game. So we're talking to players about not only bugs, but things that they think could be better, their balance suggestions, stuff that they've seen, all sorts of things. So we have a lot of that going on. That's a lot of what we do for community engagement, which then kind of feeds into making the games better. And I do demonstrably believe that really has improved our games time and time again over the years. That our players are really smart. And they say intelligent things, and we listen, and very often those things end up in the game. So it's very valuable for us. We look to derive value out of that community engagement. And as Corey said, we show up, we talk to people, so we're not faceless, which has for us been able to help us get a big community around us of people who enjoy. I don't think that it's a type, like a genre game, so much as that people enjoy the complexity and the replayability and the ability. All of our games, I think, you can play them from so many different ways. Play two playthroughs and you're going to find such different experiences. So those players who enjoy that kind of thing hang around, they contribute, they know Corey and I, and then they have become a really strong community that helps build the community. So we do a lot of community engagement, but our community engagement arm is way bigger than just Corey and I, because our community is friendly, they love the games, and they help share them with people and teach other people to play them, and etc. So I think, in that regard,
there's a term we use, like super fan or super backer. There's people that you will find as a game developer that will stand out from the crowd in terms of their passion or their interest in assisting, or they have a special affinity for a particular game. And as a developer, you have to build the skill of recognizing these people and cultivating them into your community, making sure they stay around, take care of them. There's a lot of people that will buy your game. There's a lot of people that will post comments. But if you cultivate the right group of them, you'll find that there's people that will answer questions for you. So what we're always trying to do is convert people into these, these fanatics, promote them to officers in the community, whatever it is, so that they become part of your customer outreach. There's only two of us, so Andrew and I can't be on Discord 24 hours a day. We barely manage, 19 hours a day or something? So we have to have these other people in the community, and sometimes when you first meet them as a developer, they can be frustrating, or they can be intimidating, because they're very passionate and they're very smart, and the first time you meet them, you're like, boy, you're pushy, like you want a lot of stuff, you've got a lot of ideas, but if you can harness that energy, they can become like hugely foundational for your community, because having those people, if you can direct that passion back in a positive way, the next player that shows up that needs guidance, they don't necessarily need to talk to you. You can say, oh, Mint knows what he's talking about, and this moderator or this super member of the community will take it from there. And part of that is acknowledging that you're not doing it alone. Like constantly thanking people is being honest about how much the community is holding you up. When it's 10 people helping you or 100 people helping you, you've got to find ways to acknowledge them. And I think that's it can be tough, because it is somewhat swallowing your pride. Like, yeah, we got here because of you guys. We got here because, we fixed this game because you guys told us that these were the problems.
I will testify to the fact that when you are starting and growing a company, recognizing good people and having the ability to give up control of things that you've been doing is hard. I mean, it was hard for me. I was probably had the company going for like 3 years before I brought on someone to help. And she's someone that I trust implicitly and that I've worked with for, 10 years before this. So that's that's definitely one of those things that takes time, but like you said, it pays off. So is it just the two of you at the company? How big is the company in terms of, full-time, part-time contractors, volunteers?
It's just the two of us, but we do have a contractor. We really focus on having good partners that we can reliably come back to and tap when we need specialist services. So we have a producer at Digital Viking Studios, Peter, who we've worked with for the last 2 games and plan to work with on our next game, and he's great. And we don't have him on, we contact him once or twice a year, and we go through a cycle of getting awesome new music. We just put out double the size of the Star Traders soundtrack with another big burst of his music, kind of helping to fill that out. We have an art team that we work with to help with a good deal of the art. We have a video guy who helps us do videos. A big part of being an indie dev is to realize that we made the trap. We fell into it early. You can try to do everything. We did the videos.
You can try to do everything by yourself.
We try to do like all these things. So now we've got a lot of help. From a cost perspective, we still do a lot of things ourselves, and we find the line with the art team where I can do a lot of it and save us money, and some things we just have to have them do. And the animation team, I get them, they do certain things, and then I duplicate those things out to the larger scope or whatever. So we still have that line, because we don't have full-time employees, so you can just make them do things all the time. But it's the two of us plus a group of very skilled specialist contractors.
Our other brother Martin helped us with Battle Force, so at that point we did have 3 full-time employees, but he said he was out after Battle Force, so we haven't gotten him to come back.
He's the
I think-
smart one. That's the.
I
you know,
think
that's
part of
the-
it
Yeah.
part of it is about recognizing what you're good at and trying to find people who are good at other things and using them. Like early on, we knew we're not good at making music. Like neither of us have any experience with making music. That's an easy one, right? You can sometimes at the beginning of a process, you can say, look, we have no idea how to make music. We're never going to figure it out. We've got to buy it. But there's things that you're like, we could like, we could make a
Download
video.
a free video editing
Yeah,
software.
just get this, like, I found this free video editor and we'll just capture some gameplay and put our game music over it. That's a trailer. So, or we'll just post some stuff on Facebook. Now we're marketeers. Like, you have to draw the line around what you're good at and say, this is what we're good at, this is what we're going to do. And then, like Andrew said, you've got to find partners. And we look at the community in a lot of the same ways. You've got to find those people that are really good, really engaged, and do everything you can to lift them up and make them as good as they can be when they're working with you. And that means going back to them, being honest with them, giving them good feedback. I think the worst thing you can do with a partner, like a marketing partner or an artist, is like take something that's moderate quality, finish it yourself, like not be totally happy with it, but don't tell them. You don't have that hard conversation of, this wasn't up to standards. What can we do to work with you to improve that? And I think if you do that and you go back to people over and over, you can really develop more than just a studio contractor relationship. You can develop a strong partnership where they know your expectations, you know their work, and that helps you kind of avoid the stop and start problem of recontracting with someone different every time. There's a lot of people I talk to who they buy concept art from 15 different people, and then they can't even, they can't get consistency, or their next game isn't as good as the concept art of the previous game or whatever. And that's because they're changing horses so often.
We had a show about that, about outsourcing. It's also important to not only like things that you're not good at, but like, is this really worth your time when you can pay somebody else to do it quicker? And it devalues your time. That was the other super important thing, well, especially when it comes to outsourcing.
Yeah, definitely. Like, yeah. How much value are you going to add making a video? Even if you can make a video that's almost as good, it's going to take you 40 hours. What else could you do with those 40 hours? And if you're really good at something else, then your 40 hours of doing that is going to be way better for your game in the end.
Yeah.
So Gamer Husband has a suggestion that, we don't usually do, but it's probably a good idea. So as Indy's playing here, can the two of you do a play-by-play and explain to folks that haven't played the game what's going on for, a few minutes here, so everybody gets a better.
I just lost a guy. Thanks, gamer.
It's like,
Corey,
Rifles can shoot from slot 4. Okay, that's a good idea. Well, we'll do that next time. But yeah, that makes sense. So how am I sucking here? That's the
Corey, can you see the? I can't see the video, Jay. So
I'm loading the Twitch client.
okay.
all right. So right now, I'll fill in. Do you get there, Corey? Right now, he's in crew combat, and it's very similar to Deeper Dungeon, Darkest Dungeon, in terms of how it plays out.
That's true.
a swordman or zealot up front. In a lot of ways, I just grabbed the people in order. I didn't even look at like who did what or anything. So I just grabbed the people in order and stuck them there.
Okay, so step one, plan ahead.
Well,
Step one, RTFM.
Yeah, most likely you snagged your officers. It looks like they're all carrying pistols.
Yeah.
You probably picked some officers like quartermasters and the engineer, and didn't end up with the actual trained fighting crew. So for that, you're
Quartermaster.
Come on, I got my doctor in there. He's a good shot.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, you're doing great. What difficulty are you on? Did you play on the default?
Yeah.
Okay, then you're fine. You're gonna win. No problems.
Well, I lost a guy. Sabotage.
He's
You
fine.
didn't lose him.
You can click up top in the combat log and see. All right, so you killed the enemy captain. Good job. You win. I would definitely take their fuel. So the game breaks out into, there's two kinds of combat. There's ship versus ship combat, and there's crew combat. You can get into crew combat by boarding an enemy ship. You can also run into crew combat, riots in the spice hall, scavengers on wild zones. So both of those combat systems can happen at various points, but crew combat can also happen inside of ship combat. So if you're really good at fighting hand to hand, you can close range with your ship and destroy the enemy on board their ship. So this is the wild zone, where what's this, Edge Delta? This is looks like a ocean world. So here you can click the explore button and play one of the like casino style mini games, which will let you hunt for rewards or face. So this is a card game. You see the hand. This is the hand that's based on this planet. If you leave and come back, you'll see these same cards. It's like walking up to a poker table or something and seeing the 5 cards that came out. You can say, oh, this looks like garbage. I'm going to go somewhere else to play. Or you can play a few hands here.
It's actually a really good hand. So
that's a really good hand.
So you see the numbers there. You've got 2 -1 cards and a +4 and a +3. So
so I get lost. That's it. Of all of the good cards, and then I get the crap one. Yay! What are the odds of that? I guess 1 in 5.
1 in 5. Now you can get talents that would let you like remove one of those cards or replace it with a reward. So if you had an explorer on your ship, you could have replaced that lost card with a talent, like a limited use ability that one of your crew members would provide you. See, this is not as good.
No.
So that scavengers one, that would be another crew fight. And the saltwater predators would fight your dudes.
Yeah.
Looking good. Oh,
yeah.
Nice. Okay, so we got some hydrocarbon crude. So at its core, this game can revolve around buying and selling resources between the zones. If you don't want to fight, you don't want to explore, you can make a fairly good living by just being a merchant. You know, buying low, selling high.
So
that's how it works.
You're gonna do great.
There's absolutely, we don't have time in an hour to get into the amount of depth that's in this game. I fired it up for the first time, took one look at all the crew and all the talents and leveling up, and I went, oh, I can't deal with this right now, and closed it. And then I came back like 6 hours later, and I've been hooked on it.
I think your cargo hold is full, bud.
Oh, it is?
But it's okay. You can stash it. You're on an island. You can just stash that stuff somewhere.
I did. I clicked stash.
Yeah, it's in the stash already, so
if you click deposit cargo, that'll show you what's already in your hold.
I got narcotic spice. Yeah, I'm gonna get rich.
That's good stuff, but it's illegal. So you're gonna have to find someone shady to sell it to. Maybe an indie world where they don't follow the laws, or a black market. So you could stash that and take the easier to sell hydrocarbon crude and go sell it for a profit.
Let's just sell a stash. Okay, so let's get out of here.
I read a review or an interview y'all did back in 2015 or sometime in the past, and it says that every time you start a new project, your promise to each other is to manage the scope of it. So how's that working out?
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's working out okay, actually. We both have very big dreams. I think we did a good job of managing the scope of Star Traders Frontiers. Probably some of our Kickstarter backers are like, dear God, these guys with their scope management, 3 years of development, what are they doing? But I think this is the game we set out to make. It's deep and it's complex, and there's a lot of ways to play it. I think the game would not be as good if it didn't have as many different play styles built into it. When you look at the analytics of how people are playing it, you see people playing pacifist merchants, explorers, spies, pirates, bounty hunters, and they're all doing very different things in the game. They're building different ships, they're recruiting different kinds of crew, they're making their money different ways, and I think that ties into the replay. You can play the game one way and then be like, that didn't work out as well as I'd hoped. I wonder if there's a different way to be, and there is.
So you mentioned analytics. Do you all use, off-the-shelf analytics packages? Do you create your own, tools to go along that? What do you use, and where did it come from to, manage the development of these games?
We use Google Analytics and Facebook. We use Facebook on mobile because its SDK is really good. We built a custom layer. We've also looked at GameAnalytics.com. Their Windows support, surprisingly, is a little dodgy. Game Analytics looks really good because it's game focused, and we've talked about moving over to that several times. In my previous life, I did a lot of analytic systems development and analysis of user data. So we've sort of used some of that experience with the platform. And I think analytics is really, really, really important. I think it's probably one of the most overlooked game development features. And it ties into like what Andrew was saying before about listening to players. It's really, really important to listen to players, but it's also really, really important to have a check against the people that are talking to you. Because if there's 1,000 people playing your game, you're talking to 100 of them. Yeah. And the 100 people are a really good source of information. They're a really good source of feedback, but sometimes they're going to lead you astray. They're going to say, no one's using this ship. It's stupid. Get rid of it. And if you get rid of it, you might have just made 400 people who were using it just fine and aren't the kind of people that come on Discord and talk to you, make them really mad. Or no one can possibly succeed on possible. I hear that a lot over email. And I look at the analytics and I say, well, get good, because the fact is there's people wrecking this game on impossible all day, every day. So I think you have to have a check and balance to both sides of it. If you strictly look at the analytics, it can lead you astray, because sometimes I've learned data lies to you. You can have a bias as a developer and an analyst looking at data, and you can have this bias that blinds you to what the data is actually telling you. And likewise, players have a bias. So using them both and saying they're 50-50 in this decision-making process, I think is really, really important. And also the analytics tell us a lot about what part of the games we should work on.
And that was my next question. When you're looking at the analytics, what are you primarily looking for? What are those, KPIs that you're looking at when you start factoring in what's going to be the next update?
Well, systems used is really important. So are the things we're adding getting used? Are they successful as features? I think also player efficiency over time is really important to us. And then looking at the first and second game experience is really important to us. That first game that someone plays in your game, you should set that data aside in your analytics and say, this is special data. This is their first contact with the enemy, their first time through the game. What are we learning here? Like, are they all dying on level 2? Andrew, we had some really interesting things in Templar's Battle Force, which is like an XCOM style game. We did not expect people to go north on this map. The guide was like, head east, and and for some reason the map design, it funneled people down this suicide road, and we would not have understood that, because the players will say this game's too hard to keep dying, and you won't, and you'll be like, we don't understand, why are they having so much trouble with this? Where is it hard? The monsters are too hard. But they're really saying, if you go north on the second level, the monsters get too hard. Well, that's because you're cut off from your, there's all these things happening. So the analytics and telling you where things are going wrong is really important. So what ship's killing people? So is there a particular type of pirate that's like, he's out of balance, he's appearing too early, he's got too many long-range weapons? Those kind of things are really important. And then also, like I said, what features are they using? What talents do people use all the time? You know, what are the skills that are really effective? Because you can look and see, like, we thought this talent's really great, it's really fun to use, but no one's buying it. Why? Is it because the icon's not impressive? Because of its order on the screen? Because they never recruit the job that has the talent? So, and that's where you can go back to your community and say, hey guys, you know, friendly banter is supposed to be OP, but you guys aren't using it. Like, does anyone know why they didn't buy friendly banter? And someone will say, well, it sounded stupid. Like, how often does that even happen? And we'll say, well, every time you click this button. And they'll say, oh, really? Like, that is OP. Like, I should have bought it. And then you'll make that connection of, okay, so we know at least 3 people on the community said it's because it sounds bad. So you rewrite the description, suddenly you see it going up and it's OP, and now you're happy.
So,
you know, I thought the most effective feedback that a game developer can get from somebody is, this game sucks, period. That's like,
yeah.
Okay,
that's
that helps not at all. That helps not at all. That's like saying, I don't like this, and then that's it. There's no...
Last call for the first round of a free copy of Star Traders. So do ! raffle and get that in super quick.
Okay,
we'll
scroll down to the bottom.
Of it.
Way to the bottom. Yeah, see the 2 guys with the guns and the swords? Yeah, that guy. And the Amelia Jejos and Vispana Aftabis. Those are your dudes. Fighters. And they'll automatically go into the slot where they're best.
Okay. Well, what is this dude? Oh, this guy's just an engineer. So we'll put this guy, Pistolier. Okay.
Bingo. Those are your fighters. So when you start the game, you get like a dedicated fighting crew. These guys are going to do a little better than your last set.
Nice. Fidri, you won. Woo! Congrats.
All right, we're going to open it right back up again and give away another one. So rinse, repeat, everybody. And Fidri, I'll get you a code just as soon as I get a second to pull it up.
So while we're doing that, you talked about going online and being on Reddit. So you spend hours on Reddit. What about Discord? How's your Discord helped, or has it not helped? I mean, how much time do you spend on Discord every day? You just have it open?
When I suggested we start a Discord, not everyone in the company agreed.
No,
there was an argument, a debate. I would say some resistance that was present within the corporate structure against Discord, and
Then Corey showed me this fascinating video about how I was a broom. I don't know if you guys have seen.
No.
The Discord. Okay, well, it's a pretty hilarious, cheeky little publicity video from Discord about how forums are brooms and Discord's a vacuum and don't be a broom. And then I got on board and I realized that I didn't want to be a broom, so we have a Discord.
Oh, we'll have to see that video. You'll have to link us that video.
Yeah, they do. They're so weird. They're great. They're always publishing the weirdest videos. You must have a whole team that makes them. So I agree. Corey's telling the truth. When we started talking about it, we actually had a community member suggesting it for quite some time before we actually bit the bullet and did it. And I think for me, at least, the worry was that we already spent so much time doing community engagement in the more traditional forums and places like that, that one more live chat place was going to just be the tipping point and we would all go under, which has not at all been the case. Actually, it's probably the best community spot we have right now. It's very active. It gives a live place for people to hang out. It is really strengthening the community member, the engagement, in a way that I don't think you see with a forum. So
I think there's an interesting give and take, right? When we started, we would talk to indies who would say, you've got to be out there everywhere. You need a Pinterest, you need a Tumblr, you need a blog, you need a, whatever.
That's like then you're not ever working on your game.
Yeah, and if you try, so Andrew and we tried that for a little while and we realized this is horrible. Like, we just do a bad job on 50 social media networks. So we've really tried to focus
Tinder.
on.
Gotta be everywhere.
Gotta be everywhere. I'm gonna put Estelle Brockstrom.
Captain
put her
LeBron
on
can be on Tinder.
Yeah. So I think
That's hilarious.
Discord it was something that when it first came on the scene and our fans were like, you guys should have a Discord. We're like, yeah, well, you said we should have a X too, a Pinterest and everything
Put
else.
us on Etsy too, and it didn't do anything.
And I think, when we really looked at what are other studios doing, we saw a lot of people moving to Discord. I joined a couple of other game studios and communities that were running Discords, and we saw a lot to like. I think Discord has exceeded my expectations as a community builder by quite a bit. It also has helped Andrew and I run our business. We used to use Google Hangouts all the time, and I think we've moved like 100% Discord. Like, I think we open Hangouts when like we can't find each other on Discord or something, and you're worried. Like, are you okay? Like, what's going on?
Do you see like how like forums have maybe gotten a lot smaller since Discord, since Discord became so popular?
I think our forum has changed the way it's used. There's less like the forum gives us permanence. It gives us a URL to share. It gives us a more trackable source of bugs and feedback.
Right.
Discord is great for informal conversations, for talking to the people that are online about something. But if somebody says, hey, when I do X and Y, I get this weird result in this game, with 200 people on the Discord, and I imagine big studios with like 1,000 members, you can't do bug reports on Discord.
No.
So the forum is still really valuable for us in terms of its searchability, its topical organization, its lack of memes. There's no we've got one thread on the forum that's just memes.
Yep.
Nobody posts memes in, so Discord is really good for the real time and the transient conversations. The forum's really good for bug reports, for tools, for build write-ups. Like, we've got a number of people in the community that their primary contribution is doing the math and figuring out optimal builds in various games. So here's the optimal pirate build. It gives you max damage at range 5, and it does this. Here's the order you want to buy your talents. Here's how you allocate all your points. That type of information is not good for Discord, because that person would be constantly repeating it. So instead, we make a forum link, or we make a blog post or something that has a permanent URL, and we teach our bot to use it. We've also, this is our first game with a wiki, and combining the Gamepedia wiki with Discord and with a bot has been a real win for us. The ability to say, somebody says, what's the price of this ship? And you say, ship list, and the bot prints out a URL for them and says, hey, here's the ship list, and they can click on it. Or it's a forum post, like, here's our list, here's our roadmap, here's the upcoming roadmap, and people will come on Discord and say, hey, what's the next feature? And if you as a developer get into the habit of answering that question manually every time, you will waste tons of hours, right? You'll say, oh, we're working on small craft. Oh, we're working on small craft. You'll just say it over and over and over. And people say, what's that? And you'll have to explain it. So having those URLs and a bot that you can be like, oh yeah, we have a roadmap. Oh yeah, we have a bug submission form. Those things. And then your community, your stalwarts, your super community members, they know how to use the bot too, so they can send the roadmap, they can send the lore book, they can send the link to the forum, and that really cuts down on your cost to own Discord as a community hotspot.
Right, there's a thing for Discord for bug reporting. So I've seen people have a bug channel, and then it does, like, I don't know if it links to Trello or whatever different bug reporting things. What's the pay for being a super member?
You get assigned work, and then we ask you to donate to our Kickstarters. It's an abusive relationship. We will not lie. No, it's we love those people that have stuck with us through all of this, and we hope that they feel like seeing their names in the credits and seeing their stories told in the game makes it all worth it. And I, as a developer, I adore the times in the game where I see things that I can identify back to the fan. When I see a name, when I see a crew member that gets generated and I recognize the name they have going back to a Kickstarter backer, it makes me really, really happy.
That's cool.
Andrew, you recently added a really neat feature with user stories actually being entered directly into the game. And that's been a big hit with our longtime fans and people that have been playing for years.
Yeah, it was actually a Kickstarter reward for a certain tier of backers. Got to type up Star Traders, the original in 2010. Big popular game, really got us going. And we asked Kickstarter backers to tell their favorite story of their famous captain. So we have reams of these legendary stories of their captain and the things they did in the original. And if you're in the Spice Hall and you have storyteller members among your crew, you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner, if you spice your crew, it may pop up a little message that says like storytellers add 6 morale and says like legends of the
I just stick your engineer in there. Yeah, don't use the swordsman, he's too hurt, but your engineer's, he'll be okay in that front line.
Okay.
So we've been able to factor those stories into the game.
Wait, no, he's got a rifle. No.
Great. Thanks for the advice.
Wait,
Come on.
He's not going to be able to do anything from there. So
You can shoot people.
we just talked to last week. We were talking to Heather at Fail Better Games because Sunless Skies and Sunless Seas has such that same narrative aspect to it. But and what she said was when you have a game that encourages stories, you tend to attract players that generate the stories, and so it becomes a very symbiotic relationship. So that's awesome that you're able to use that fan content.
You can move it back too.
Make the game a little more interesting. So, all right, real quick then, just some housekeeping stuff. Don't forget, we do this twice a week. Follow us, tell your friends. We're all about, trying to help the other developers that are out there and everyone learning from everyone else. So, you said that Discord had overperformed, that you were more than happy with it. What do you think about their announcement to start selling games? And, as you've transitioned over the years from selling on Android to then iOS and PC, how do you approach distribution? What's working? What's not working? All of that sort of stuff.
Why'd I get an F? Everyone's putting an F. Corey flushed the dude on an airlock once. He's a savage.
F is respect. Press F for respect. They're just paying respects to your fallen.
Oh, okay.
It's normal.
Okay.
Normal.
You had me kill the engineer. He was more important.
He'll be fine. He'll get better.
He's dead.
So, how do you guys approach distribution? It's one of the things that we talk about in terms of building that long tail. Where do you sell outside of Steam? And what do you think about the Discord announcement to start selling games?
Yeah.
I'm cautiously excited about Discord selling games. I'm a little worried about them spreading themselves too thin, and trying to compete where maybe they're not as strong as they are in other areas. But at the same time, it's really exciting because we know, everyone on this interview knows the discovery problems, right? We talked about at the beginning. How can you stand out? How can you find players that are interested? And Discord is a place where really passionate gamers, like people that are on studios, Discords, are not casual gamers, right? And I get it. Like if you like Star Traders Frontiers, you will probably love the Fail Better games, right? So Discord has a lot of knowledge about the people that are part of servers and what games they're playing. So they, I think, are in a good position to be able to recommend game studio to game studio similarities, right? They can say, if you like this, you'll probably like this, because a lot of other people that played Templar Battle Force have also played XCOM. And it, you know, if you liked Templar Battle Force, maybe you'd like Phoenix Point when it drops. So I can see why Discord feels like they're in a good position data-wise to make good recommendations to people. And we applied to be considered for their developer thing. I don't think we've heard back, but I'm excited about it, both as a player and as a studio. I think it has a real potential to be something cool.
Yeah, hit me up after the show, because we know folks over there. Tomorrow we've actually got, the CEO and the biz dev director from Night Dive
IGDA.
Studios. No, she's coming on later.
Ah.
It's from Night Dive Studios, and that's exactly what they're going to be talking about, because they did get, in the early stuff for Discord, and they're going to be discussing other stores that they sell on, and in particular, Discord. So aside from Steam, do you really go after any other stores? Are you on GOG or Green Man or any of the other ones that are out there?
No, not really. We like Steam a lot. We're on. You can get Star Traders Frontiers on the Windows Store. Though I don't know. It's definitely a Steam focused operation for us at this point. We have learned over the years to try to pick our battles. We are a 2-person team, and back in the day we sold on Desura as an example. We got big
BlackBerry Store.
Did you get hammered from Desura?
Yeah, we were in the group of people that lost money, were owed money and never paid.
That was such a bummer how that whole thing
We were
happened.
super mad, dude.
It went down in a nasty way. A lot of lies and
Twice burned, man. Twice burned.
So
twice shy.
But what we learned from a number of those things, and we tried some pretty exciting back in the day, in the earlier 2012, 2013, we got involved in some pretty exciting sounding like game subscription markets that were offering like to pay developers very aggressively if people kept their game on their phone, which is our kind of thing. And we found over and over again that these small things tax a huge amount of our time, often don't do as well as you might think they do, and that we were just better off focusing on our area of doing really well. So partially that's just knowing our limit of what our bandwidth is, and that we have a standard of platform support that is high, and we don't want to let that slip. And we already have enough work to do keeping up with Google and other people who are revving their APIs and forcing you to catch up, so that we aren't really, I don't know, Corey, if you're the technical guy, so I'm just talking about stuff I've heard.
I mean, I think you hit it on the head, though. It's about picking your battles. And early on, when we were just Android developers, we put our games in a lot of places, like the NVIDIA Store and the BlackBerry Store and Amazon App Store, and we were going to be on the Ouya Store, and we were going to be on the Samsung Store.
The Ouya?
Ouya.
Yeah,
I have one of those.
No joke. So do I. I actually have 2. Total crap. So, I think you gotta, as an indie, you have to recognize, like, nothing is free to you. Like, yeah, you can say we'll be on every store, but it's gonna cost you hours. You're gonna have to support analytics. It's gonna be a different crash source. You're gonna have to build and deploy and sign and post a news article on every site you're on for it to work. It's like Pinterest. If you're not going to use it, if you're not going to make it a first-class member of your team, you shouldn't do it. That's how I feel. I feel like diluting yourself across a dozen stores exposes you to risk. When the BlackBerry Store closes down and doesn't pay you, and when the Desura shuts down and doesn't pay you, and when users say they're mad about your support on Samsung Store because you don't respond to their reviews, and you say, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, what? So if you dilute your efforts, you will suffer some consequences, and oftentimes the sales on those secondary and tertiary markets just do not justify it.
Plus, every single place you have to like go through the, if there's an update to your game, you have to go through this whole big process of doing the updates on every single platform.
And for us, that's especially painful, right? So 88 updates in 8 months. You know,
Yeah.
Many of our games have received, like Star Traders, the original, still gets occasional updates, monthly updates. It's had almost 400 updates over its lifetime. So yeah, for us especially, that's painful. That multiplication effect is just, it's enough to have made us decide to focus over and over again.
We've had several of the streaming companies come to us just because of the depth of companies that we have access to in the industry. Us being the Powell Group, not the Twitch show, but and it's hard to explain because they're coming from a very passionate side, and they're like, we're not asking for anything, just we'll do the wrapping and we'll put it up there. But it's not that simple. It does cost something, even if it's not straight money, and that's something that developers need to be aware of. You're right, there is nothing free. I mean, you may not be having to pay out cash or even a percentage sometimes of what you're selling, but you're going to have a time investment, and you can take a very serious reputation hit. Like you said, if you've got people that are very vocal about how poorly you supported their bug on a Samsung One Note 4.2, that's gonna hurt you, and it's not worth it to go after it. So yeah, it is, it's having that deep distribution. It's got its pros and it's got its cons.
Yeah, and I think if you were updating less, if you were like, this game is done, it's not going to get any more updates, it's finished, I would say that maybe you would be in a position where you would be less, you would have less cost per platform. But every studio is different. But I think it's definitely something that people should think about. What's the real cost, like you said, of support and updates and everything else to deal with another market?
So I don't want to keep y'all too much longer because I know you're very, very busy, obviously. If there are folks out there watching, if you've got a question, put it up in chat ASAP. We're still going to give away one more copy of the game. So do ! raffle. Of course, follow us and tell your friends, because it's like they talked about on Reddit. If you think it's hard to find things to talk about that don't directly involve you on Reddit, try explaining to a bunch of Redditors that you've got a Twitch channel that actually is meant to help developers without it sounding like a promo piece. And it's the world I live in. So through the work that y'all done over the years, you've got multiple ways of getting your games funded. You've got Kickstarters, you have a Patreon page, you've done early access. What has been the most successful, and do you have a set strategy when you start a new game? Is it something that you say, okay, we're going to do a Kickstarter at this point, and a Patreon at this point, and early access at this other point? How do you approach that?
First off, Mint Dragon, thanks for the follow. Anybody else wants to click the follow button, we would be happy. Okay, go ahead. Just have to acknowledge the follow there.
Well, I would say that we've had a pretty evolving relationship with all these different funding strategies. This was, for Star Traders, this was the first time that we've ever done early access. And we went into it a bit unsure how it would go, because you hear at the industry at large sort of how ho-hum it is. And that it's really kind of, we were warned by people that it's a bad thing to do for your game, and that it really, no one's going to talk about you, and you're going to find that people hate early access, and et cetera, et cetera. So we actually had pretty much the reverse experience. We really liked early access, and I think we'll choose to do it again. And for us, it was a great way to build up a bigger community, get more attention to ourselves, and show the kind of studio we are to people. So I think that'll probably continue to be part of our kit, but we definitely do every game a little different. The Patreon we keep that's actually a studio Patreon. It's not a game by game one. And we work on providing kind of special level interaction there, currently some of the Patreon crew is working on this. We hit a goal of funding level at I think $500 a month, and so the crew is working on a series of polls that they're voting in. And major new feature, what game do you want it in? They picked Heroes of Steel. What should that feature be? They picked that they want a 9th hero in the game, and they're currently duking it out. Should it be a monk, a druid, or a witch? So we're giving, in an exciting way, people more access to kind of what we're doing and having some big say in the games we're doing. So that's kind of more of a side thing, and it's not, we kind of run that independent of a game coming and going. So if you're a Patreon, you get access at a very discounted rate to all of our alphas. So that's an exciting, nice thing for all the games. Kickstarters are always interesting, and we think about them every time we start a new game. We, like most things we do, try to be really, we want to finish all of the commitments to our Kickstarters. So we know that we don't want to run too many of them. We don't ever want to fail a Kickstarter. So we take that pretty seriously. And we know that Kickstarter is that moment where like ambition meets practicality or something, like
reality.
Yeah, reality. And it is a risky time to get into. You see it every Kickstarter. You think, oh no, we can control scope. We won't promise too much. We won't blah, blah, blah. And the best, you can just go look at the graveyard of Kickstarters that were unable to kind of come out the other side successful with their project, often because they got too excited. Or the community got too excited and expected more than they ever thought, the creators ever thought they would make. So we will definitely do Kickstarter again, very possibly for our next game, but we want to make sure that we, for example, Star Traders Frontiers, and even our original Kickstarter, Heroes of Steel, has like a very tiny lingering commitment that we haven't finished yet. So there's stuff for us to do before we get, before we feel ready to really embark on that again.
Thank you guys so much. Sorry, thank you guys. So we just got like 3 follows. Thank you guys so much for following. There was another question too. As a sole developer of a game in EA Star Valor, is it worth it to start a Patreon?
We started Patreon 3 years ago, I think, maybe a little more. And I think we've looked around for other developers doing it, and have seen a couple of other people making games. I think it's pretty rare. And I would say that there's no harm in starting one, because if nobody signs up, it's free. But that I would talk to game developers who've asked, should I do a Patreon? Should I do a Kickstarter? And you have to realize that Patreon, even for us, we have a big fan base. We've got people who have been with us for the last 8 years. We have, 80 patrons and make $500 a month on there. It's really important for us, and we turn all of that money right back into investing in the games. But that's taken us 3 to 4 years to build that up, and it takes a chunk of our weekly time. But we focus on that as providing that value to those those Patreons. So should you do one? Like, think seriously about it. And if you have a community already, it could be very valuable. If you're thinking of that as a way to build a community, I don't think that it's going to be the right place for you to go to look for funding. I think it's also a common question about early access, that idea, I'll put my game in early access to get my game funded so that I have enough money to build my game. And we look at that as like, that's also similarly not the cart getting before the horse thing. Like, early access is to help you bring a game to completion. Patreon is probably better if you have a community. That would be my honest take on it.
So I'll jump back in real quick on early access, and the reason that you see a lot of mixed opinions. What we've seen over the last, however long they've been doing it now, 3 or 4 years, is if you are going to self-publish like you guys do, then it's good. It's absolutely fantastic. You can get people engaged early on. You can get, feedback and early sales and that sort of stuff. Where you have to be very careful about using early access is if you want to go find a publisher later on, because right now we're seeing 50 to 60% of the publishers out there are telling us don't send us something that's already in early access because they consider it already launched and they can't, do anything about it. And so, and that's across like 500 and some publishers that we track. So, it's in your case, when you know you're going to self-publish and you've done it before and you don't need a publisher, then yeah, it's fantastic. But if you are creating a game and you don't know, or you're going to need a publisher, I would caution you heavily before you put your game out there on early access. All right, so
for those people, I would strongly recommend a private alpha. Part of the story of Star Traders Frontiers, we did an internal alpha for like a year, and then we did a private alpha for like 11 months. Andrew, is that right? 10 months, and then we did 8 months of early access. So there's a lot you can do in a private alpha that you can't do in early access. Andrew and I talk a lot about early access is a time where you need to be making changes that add customers, not lose customers. There's a lot of stuff in early access that you think you can do, but it will cost you if you do it. There's stuff that you should do in private with people who are going to forgive you because they've either funded your game or they were invited. You can do things that break the game. You can change things that would elicit negative reviews in your private alpha that you shouldn't do in early access. You can break saved games in a private alpha, and people will be like, well, I kind of figured this was going to happen. It's a private alpha. But if you do that in early access, it can be a black eye, and those things stick with you. There's a lot of players we've heard from say, I don't buy early access games. I've been burned. I've been burned by early access developers. I don't trust it. So you have to be careful not to burn out your players and communities in early access. And like you said, publishers aren't interested because the game's out there. They can't hype it. They can't really launch it properly once it's already out on Steam. So I think a private alpha is something that people should really look at if they've got a game they think is almost ready or they want feedback and they're like, well, I've got some runway, I've got some funding left. How can I get people to play this game? A private alpha is a place where you should go before you go to early access, in my opinion.
That's good feedback. All right, so last question, unless somebody, unless we have a viewer that pops one up. We talk a lot about price point on all of these, when we're talking to developers. And our usual argument is don't sell your game for less than $15. Your game is $15, and it's one of those that I'm like, why aren't you selling this for $30? How do you decide how you're going to price the stuff, and what's been the pros and cons of having such a deep game, for only $15?
I think our games have been getting more and more expensive as we've gone along. Like Star Traders was $2 when it started. It's now $3. So we've gone from $2 to $15. I think part of it is we're both nervous about the price point. I think it's scary to say like this game is worth $30. Sometimes I have trouble believing that a lot of games are worth $30. It's an interesting question. Like pricing is such a personal issue. Like what are you willing to pay for a game? And you'll find people that are like, you'll find people who say I would never pay more than $20 for an indie game. And there's people that say like, I don't buy games that are under $30 because I assume that they're crap. So it's such a sticky question. I really don't know the answer. We went back and forth a lot with people that we trust about pricing. We settled on 15. Our last game was $10. So to us, it felt like, hey, it's a 50% price increase over our last game. I don't know, Andrew, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we have slowly just been building games that we feel like are worth more and more money. And I have always am more comfortable that we would get the feedback in comments that this game is, I can't believe it was $15, than, oh my God, I can't believe they're overcharging they're asking for $30 for this game. We believe we're right where we need to be. we'll keep growing it. It is a very personal question.
And there's no right answer.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the reality to it. You know, it's, you know, we, or at least I, preach that you shouldn't sell it for under 15, because under 15 you're starting to get into that, you know, area where people are going to look at it and go, well, if they only want $10 for it, how good can it be? You know, 15 and up, you know, you're playing in a different league, so to speak.
Right.
But it is interesting, and I always like to hear everybody's feedback on, you know, where they got, you know, where did this price point come from, or that price point, or you know, that sort of stuff. But yeah, I mean, so is there any, you know, as we're wrapping up here, is there any particular knowledge that we haven't talked about, you know, points or levels of experience from you all that you want to share with everyone out there? Last bits of parting knowledge?
Well, one thing I would say, since this is a interview aimed at helping other indie game devs, and we've touched on it a lot, and Corey said it at least once while we were talking about, we are really here because of our community, because they bought our games, but most importantly because they show up every day and hang out with us and talk to us and give us energy. And that is that, like, we make something and they play it, and that loop is so helpful for a game dev. So Corey mentioned, like, put your game into private alpha. You can put your game into so many different ways to get your game out there. If you're a new game dev who's getting started, looking to make a first game, second game, work on cultivating fans who enjoy what you're doing, and work on becoming a part of a community with them, because for us, at least in my experience, it's the only reason we're still making games from a physical, I have the energy to put in this many hours a week, not a commercial success thing, but that the community is there pushing us all the time and keeping us going. I want to come back and hang out. I want to come back and show them the next thing that we do. I love doing new feature blasts because I can probably name in the community people who are going to be really excited. I'm like, oh, this one is for so-and-so. This one is Brutus is going to love this. Like, you know who is out there, and it keeps you loving what you do. So I would suggest to any other indie devs out there thinking about it, like, get your game into other people's hands, get them to play it, listen, and try to make a loop with them that keeps you coming back and excited to make your game better.
Yes. I'm personally excited because now I can get officer quarters that holds 2 officers instead of 1. I just saw that on the Twitter feed, and I was like, oh, yay! My God, I can stack more of them in there now. All right. I mean, thanks, guys. I mean, this is awesome. You know, we greatly appreciate y'all being here. I'm gonna give away this last
key.
I think I see people on Twitter sometimes who are developing their first game, and they've got these gorgeous screenshots and these cool ideas and people getting hype about it, but there's so many games out there and things move really fast. Like, if I was starting out right now and I had a game that I was working on, I would make a Discord and I would say, join my Discord. I will give you a free demo of this game. You can play it. We're doing a private alpha. You know, the crowd is so big that, like, hyping your game on Twitter and trying to get people to get excited about it is only going to take you so far. Like Andrew said, you need people to play it in some capacity to tell you if it's good, to show you where it's broken, to show you where it's amazingly fun. Because sometimes you're going to be working on 3 features and one of them needs to die, and 2 of them need to get all of the attention from that 3rd feature split between them, because that other feature isn't really it's not gonna sell the game. You may be excited about all 3 of the features, but your fans are gonna be excited about something slightly different than you. And hyping it on Twitter and posting it on Facebook will get you likes and retweets, but it won't get you player feedback.
A lot of people say make the game that you would want to play, which is valuable for sure, but just because you want to play something doesn't mean people that are already fans or fans of the game you're making are going to want to play that. So you kind of have to balance those 2 things together, I feel like.
And it's always important that the people that are playing your game and giving you the feedback aren't like your friends and family, because you can't trust any of that feedback. They have to be mean strangers on the internet. That's
Sincerely true. Yep.
Nobody gets better by.
Are you an asshole? Will you review my game, please?
That's me.
You got to be honest with yourself, and you've got to take the 80-20 rule with your feedback. 20 people, 20%, of the people that give you feedback are going to say, like you said, this game sucks, you're an idiot, give up game development, I hope you're eaten by wild dogs. Like, you're going to hear that. Like, that's going to happen. And as a game developer, or as anybody creating anything, you have to be willing to completely ignore a certain percentage of the feedback you get. For most people, I imagine for us, it's about 20% is just unredeemably negative. And you're learning nothing. You should read it. It's tough. It's not fun. You should try and respond to it. Say, we're really sorry that you didn't have a good
dogs
time.
are not native to my area, so you might want to pick a different predator.
You're not going to respond with, you just don't know what a good game is or anything like that?
Yeah, you can't let it get you tilted, because some of those people are mad at you because they lost their job or they got stuck in traffic and they came home, they opened the game they bought yesterday, and they're just mad. For whatever reason, they're going to take it out on you. And sometimes when you write back and say, I'm really sorry that you had this experience. We want to make it right. What can we do? They're going to say, I'm sorry. Like, you're actually a human. Like, I didn't think this, I get that response a lot. Oh, I didn't think anyone would actually read this. Like, I just typed in this profane rant into the crash reporting system because I assumed
nobody was going to read it.
Human.
Jeez. Yeah.
So there's a percentage of the feedback you can't let it bother you. You're going to give out a game that's unfinished. You're going to get people that say, "Stop, give up. This is garbage." Those people, you can't let them discourage you, because there's other people that are going to say, "This game is scratching an itch I didn't know I had," and that's the person you have to find. Like, well, what is that itch, and how is it scratching it, and what can I do to make it scratch better? You got to listen to him or her and ignore the wild dogs, dude. He's unredeemable.
Yeah, this game scratches an itch I knew I had and I had been avoiding for years, and now I fell back into it again, and it's like crack. So we're going like an hour and a half now, and I know y'all are busy because you have like more game updates to do and community support and all the wonderful things that you are doing. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you guys. That was awesome.
If we haven't bumped you up to guest of the show on our Discord, we will get you bumped up there shortly. To the rest of y'all, everybody out there, don't forget to follow us. Tell folks what we're doing. That's the hard part for us. It's not, we don't have the normal Twitch channel where we're sitting down and playing a game all day. So we're always trying to get in front of more developers and let them know that we're out here and doing this sort of stuff. Tomorrow we've got Larry Cooperman and Steve Keck from Night Dive Games. They're working on System Shock. They have a boatload of games that they bought rights to and are updating and selling. They've done Turok, they've done Forsaken, a lot of that type of work, and they're going to talk more in depth about
that'll be interesting,
selling and stores and Steam versus Discord and all this other kind of good stuff.
Yeah, and if you guys want, whoops, that's not it. If you want that awesome emote right there, you can click the subscribe button, and you get the I Love Indie Games emote. Blam, and thank you so much for the follow. Digital to Noise, we appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow, right, Jay, at 12:30 Pacific, which is 3:30 Eastern.
That's our last show on the old schedule. Next week we go to a new schedule, and we'll be on Wednesdays and Fridays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. So we'll be pumping indie full of coffee from here on out.
Yeah, that's next week, huh? Crazy. All right, thank you guys, and thank you guys for so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. It was awesome.
Keep up the good work.
Yeah.